CLA is a body comprised of over 50 representatives of main national parties, leading organizations, religious denominations, and most active cultural and compatriotic organizations of the community, headed by co-chairs Can Kosakian and David Samvelian. UACLA actively organizes commemorative-based events, prepares genocide-related educational campaigns, and coordinates activities that represent pan-Armenian interests. I am privileged to be the mistress of ceremonies of this event and welcome you all. We will have a religious ceremony, messages, musical renditions, and finally placement of wreaths. We have a full program, and in the interest of time, I would kindly ask the speakers to adhere to the schedule. And now we will begin our program, which is being live broadcasted on Pan-Armenian TV networks and through the internet. We will begin with a presentation of colors by the Hominid Men and AGBU Scouts jointly.
Scoutner patras. Ayemtyam yatyal nangneru shujaneri scoutner kailarach on. Debroshak patvi on.
And now both national anthems will be presented by David Samvelian.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Her hayrenik azadanga vor abrele tar յուր որդիկը արտկանչում է ազադանգախ Հայաստան, յուր որդիկը արտկանչում է ազադանգախ Հայաստան, նայիր նրան երեք կույնով նվիրական մեր նշան, թող պողպողի թշնամուտ եմ, թող միշտ բանձա Հայաստան, թող պողպողի թշնամուտ եմ, թող միշտ բանձա Հայաստան, ամենայն դեղ մահը մի է, մարդ մի անգամ բիդ մերնի, բայց երանի, որ յուր ազգի ազատության գզովի, բայց երանի, որ յուր ազգի ազատության գզովի. Շնորհակալություն. Thank you.
Ջոշակագարդ, հետ դարձ, ընդհանուր սկաուտներ, հետ դարձ, քայլ առաջ, on!
Ազմիկ. You got Board Scout.
I'd like to invite Your Eminences, Archbishop Hovnan Derderian, Primate of Western Diocese, Archbishop Moshe Mardirosyan, Prelate of Western Prelacy, Very Reverend Ber Jambazian, Minister of Armenian Evangelical Union of North America, His Excellency Most Reverend Mikhail Muradian, Bishop of the Armenian Catholic Community in the United States and Canada, and all accompanying clergy to lead the religious ceremony.
Օրհնյալ Տեր մեր Հիսուս Քրիստոս ամեն, Հայր մեր, որ երգինս ես, Սուրբ Եղիցյանուն քո, եկեսե արքայություն քո, եղիցին գամ քո, որպես երգինս եվերվի, զած մեր անաբազոր, դուր մեզ այսօր, և թող մեզ զբարդիս մեր, որպես և մեր թողունք մերոց վարդաբանած, և մի դանիրս մեզ իպորցություն, այլ հրգյալ մեր իչար է, Զիգոյ արքայություն և զորություն և պարք հավիդյան ազարիդենից, ամեն։ Շնորհություն ամենեցուն Սրբո ավետարանիս Իսուսի Քրիստոսի Որեստովանու Դեր մեր Իսուս Քրիստոս ասե Թող չխրովին ձեր սրտերը հավատացեք Աստուծո հավատացեք նաև ինձի Հորս դամ մեջ շատ օտևաններ կան Եթե այդպես չլար չէի սերծեզի Թգերտամ և ցեզի համար դեղ կպատրաստեմ Եվ երբ երթամ և ցեզի համար դեղ պատրաստեմ Դարձյալ պիտի կամ և ցեզ կովեսարնեմ Որվեսի ըլլաքոն ուր ես կգտնվիմ Եվ դուք գիտեք ուր գերտամ Եվ անոր ճամփանալ գիտեք Թոմասը սավիրեն դեր չենք գիտեր ուր գերտաս Արդ ինչպես կրնանք ճամփան գիտնալ Հիսուս պատասխանեց անոր Ես եմ ճամփան ճշմարտությունը և կյանքը Միայն ինձմով կարելի է հորս երթալ Եթե զիս ճանչնայիք հայրս ալ պիտի ճանչնայիք Եվ այժմեն իսկ դուք գիտեք զայն Եվ դեսած եք զայն Փիլիպոսը սավ Դեր ցույց տուր մեզի հայրը և կպավեք մեզի Հիսուս պատասխանեց Այսքան ադեմ ցեզի edem Եվ դակավին չճանցար զիս Փիլիպոս Ով որ զիս տեսավ հայրը տեսած եղավ Ալ ինչպես կսես ցույց տուր մեզի հայրը Չես հավատար թե ես հոր մեջ եմ և հայրս իմ մեջ Այս խոսքերը որ ցեզի գսեմ ես ինչ մեջ եմ սեր Հայրը որ մեջս կպնագի իմ միջոցավես կկործե իր կործերը Հավատացեք ինձի թե ես հորս մեջ եմ և հայրը իմ մեջս Եթե ոչ խոսքերուս համար կոնե գադարած կործերուս համար հավատացեք Լավ գիտեք թե ով որ ինձի կհավատա Պիտի գադարե ինչ որ ես կնեմ և անոնց մե ավելին ալ պիտի գադարե Որովհետև ես հորս քով գերտամ Եվ ինչ որ իմ անունովս խնդրեք պիտի գադարեմ զայն Որվեսի հայրը փառավորվի որդիով Քրիստոս Աստված մեր, Վասսուփ քաչիկո բադվագանի, ըս խաղաղություն քո դուր մեզ դեր։ Աստվածածին և ովանու գարաբեդին և սրբույնը Ստեփանոսի նախավգային ըստ խաղություն քո դուր մեզ դեր։ Վասն սրբոց գոթարակելոց, մարգարեից վարդաբեդած, մարդիրոսած, հայրաբեդած, ճգնավորած, ուսանած միանձանց և երկնային զորացն, ըստ խաղաղություն քո դուր մեզ դեր։ Նախին լուսավորչացն մերոց, Թաթեոսի և Պարտոմիոսի, և սրբոց Հակոբյանց երջանի գարակելոցն, և սրբույն Գրիգորի մերո լուսավորչին, և սրբոց Հակոբա մծպնա հայրաբեդին, Մարուքեի ճգնավորին, Մելիդոսի եպիսկոպոսին և Քևորքա և Վարդանակաչած օրավարածն այլև հարեխոսությամբ իշադագավ և աղոթիկ սրբոցն նահատակածն մերոց որ գադարեցան հնդացս հայոց ցեղասպանության վասն հավատո և վասն այրենյաց, որոց այսօր իշադագն գադարեն, սոցին սուրբ և խնգանվեր աղոթյուն, ըսխաղություն և ըզմեծ որմություն քո, Բարքևյամեզ մարդասերդեն։
The crowner of the saints, O Christ, you crown your saints and you fulfill the will of those who fear you. And with love and compassion, you care for your creatures. Hear us, O Lord, from your heavenly abode, through the intercession of the Holy Mother of God, and through the prayers of all your saints, and through the supplication of the holy martyrs who were martyred during the Armenian genocide for their faith and their fatherland. Hear us, O Lord, and have mercy, forgive, expiate, and remit our sins. Make us worthy to thankfully glorify you with the Father and with the Holy Spirit, and now and forever and ever. Amen.
It was more than a century ago, thousands of miles away, since the Armenian genocide occurred. And it is not yet forgotten, because the impact of genocide transcends time and place. We are gathered here at the site of a towering symbolic structure that reminds us of our shared tragic history, that is the loss of lives, loss of land, loss of culture, loss of language, loss of leadership, crumbled family structure, and intergenerational psychological trauma. This monument also reminds us of our rebirth, of our collective identity, resilience, and the will to survive against all odds. Furthermore, this commemorative event gives the opportunity to come together as Armenians and non-Armenians alike, with different positions and views, yet connected with the strong bond of humanity, aware of the dangers of remaining silent and apathetic against injustice. This awareness commands us to become upstanders in defense of human rights and universal morals. I thank you all for your participation in this commemoration. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the following public officials who are in attendance at this afternoon's commemoration. I kindly ask the audience to hold its applause until the very end. The Consul General of the Republic of Armenia in Los Angeles, the Honorable Sergei Sarkisov, his lovely wife and consular officials, former U.S. Ambassador to the Republic of Armenia, His Excellency John Marshall Evans, who will be speaking shortly, the Honorable U.S. Congressman Adam Schiff, who will be speaking shortly, the Honorable U.S. Congressman Judy Chu, the Honorable California State Senator Tony Mendoza, the Honorable California State Assembly Member Mike Gatto, the Honorable California State Assembly Member Chris Holden, the Honorable California State Assembly Member Adrin Nazarian, the Honorable Sheriff of the County of Los Angeles Jim McDonnell, the Honorable Supervisor of the County of Los Angeles 1st District Hilda Solis, who will be speaking shortly, the Honorable Mayor of the City of Los Angeles Eric Garcetti, who will be speaking shortly, the Honorable Council Member of the City of Los Angeles Mitchell Englander and his lovely wife Jane, the Honorable Council Member of the City of Los Angeles Paul Krikorian and his lovely wife Tamar, who will be speaking shortly, the Honorable Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Montebello Vivian Romero, the Honorable Council Member of the City of Montebello Jack Hajinian, the Honorable Mayor of the City of Glendale Paula Devine and her husband Art, the Honorable Council Member of the City of Glendale Vartan Karapetian, the Honorable Council Member of the City of Glendale Aram Najarian, the Honorable Council Member of the City of Glendale Zareh Sinanian, the Honorable Council Member of the City of Monterey Park Teresa Rial Sebastian and her husband Armen Sebastian, the Honorable former California State Assembly Member Anthony Portantino, the Honorable City Clerk of the City of Glendale Artie Katsakian, Honorable Glendale Board of Education President Dr. Armine Karpetian, Honorable Glendale Board of Education Vice President Nairi Nahabetian, the Honorable Glendale Board of Education Member Greg Krikorian, the Honorable Burbank Board of Education Member Dr. Arman Armenian, representing U.S. Congresswoman Linda Sanchez is her District Director Yvette Shahinian, representing California State Assembly Majority Leader Ian Calderon is her Communications Director Lerna Kayserian, representing California State Assembly Member Cristina Garcia is her Field Representative Cristina Asadurian. The United Armenian Council of Los Angeles is grateful to you all for your attendance in this year's Armenian Genocide Commemoration in Montebello. I now have the honor of introducing a distinguished public servant and friend of the Armenian American community, who in 2015, along with fellow Supervisor Mike Antonovich, presented a motion which was approved by the full Board of Supervisors of Los Angeles County to send a letter to President Obama requesting that he recognize the atrocities committed against the Armenian people in 1915 as genocide. Ms. Solis became the first Latina to serve in a United States cabinet position. A nationally recognized leader on the environment, Supervisor Solis became the first woman to receive the John F. Kennedy Profile in Courage Award in 2000 for her pioneering work on environmental justice issues. Supervisor Solis is a graduate of California State Polytechnic University in Pomona and earned a Master of Public Administration from USC. Please join me in warmly welcoming County of Los Angeles Supervisor Hilda Solis.
Thank you and good afternoon. I'd like to especially thank the United Armenian Council of Los Angeles for inviting me and for including me in today's commemoration. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, reverend, clergy, and honorable guests to the first supervisorial district of Los Angeles County. Welcome to the beautiful city of Montebello, which is part of the first district. It is my honor to be here with you today to commemorate the 101st anniversary of the Armenian Genocide. For the past 48 years, community members in the San Gabriel Valley and all across Southern California have come to the Armenian Genocide Martyrs Monument to honor and to remember the 1.5 million victims of the first genocide of the 20th century. For almost 5 decades, this monument has served as a place for finding solace and for making sure that the atrocities that were committed against the Armenians by the Ottoman Turks between 1915 and 1923 are never forgotten. It has become a beacon of unity, love, and resilience. While we can't change the horrors of the past and plan massacre of a united nation, we can be driven and inspired by the stories of survivors, their strength, and their perseverance. Many Armenians who managed to live through the death marches in the deserts of Syria and the tortures and killings in Anatolia found refuge here in the United States. They became thriving and vibrant members of our communities all across the country and in this county, and including right here in Montebello. Today, Los Angeles County is home to almost 200,000 Armenian Americans. Many of them are the descendants of the survivors of the genocide, who laid strong foundations and paved a new path for future generations. Armenian Americans have since become part of the multicultural fabric and essence of Los Angeles County, contributing in meaningful ways to the growth of our economy, arts, science, technology, medicine, law, and politics. As we march forward, we cannot forget the past. Denial of the awful events, such as the Armenian Genocide, only places power in the hands of perpetrators, and not just the perpetrators of the past, but of the future, that aim to execute similar horrendous agendas. Yes, we must use this day and time to remember and honor those who perish, but we must also use it as an opportunity to learn from history and ensure that nothing like this ever happens again. Their lasting memory serves to remind us that a meticulously planned crime would not have occurred if the rest of us around the world stood up to protect each other regardless of our different backgrounds. In closing, I want to leave you with a quote by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Let's fight to make sure that justice prevails. May God bless you, and God bless the Armenian American people and the Armenians of the world. Thank you, and God bless you.
Now it is my pleasure to introduce to you our keynote speaker, Rafi Hamparian. Rafi is a lifelong community activist. He was a proud member of the New Jersey AYF chapter since the age of 7. He has served as a senior congressional aide for a number of members of Congress. Currently, he serves as chairman of the Armenian National Committee of America, which is charged with advancing the Armenian cause across the United States. Rafi, rahmet.
Tikran Abkaryan, born 1996, a private in the Artsakh Armed Forces. He died 3 weeks ago in defense of Artsakh. He died to prevent another Armenian genocide. He died for me and you. Aram Abrahamyan, private, born 1996 in Armavir. He died 3 weeks ago in defense of Artsakh. He died to prevent another Armenian genocide. He died for me and you. Harach Galsjan, senior lieutenant, born 1991 in Gumri. He died 3 weeks ago in defense of Artsakh. He died to prevent another Armenian genocide. He died for me and you. Vahe Zakarian, private, born 1995 in Hrazdan. He died 3 weeks ago in Artsakh. He died to prevent another Armenian genocide. He died for me and you. Aramais Mikaelyan, private, born 1996 in Armavir. He died 3 weeks ago in Artsakh. He died to prevent another Armenian genocide. He died for me and you. Amen Eindel Mahamie. Mark me ankam bid merni. Pais Yerani Bor Yuraski Azaduchan Gazovi. Death is the same everywhere. A man will die but once. But blessed is he who dies for the freedom of his nation. These are individuals who stood proudly on the front lines of Armenian freedom. Mer Herosnera, our heroes, who gave their last measure of devotion for our cause. And I think it is fair and reasonable here in Montebello today to ask, can we have heroes here in the diaspora? And I think it is fair and reasonable to say yes. We have heroes who make our communities work, heroes who tell our young people to rise and raise others, heroes in our youth organizations, heroes in our cultural organizations, heroes in our philanthropic organizations. But my friends, there is more to do. We need to raise the stakes. We need to rise to this particular occasion. Earlier this year there was a movie, and the name of the movie was The Revenant. It's a noun for all the English teachers out there. And it means a person who has returned, especially from the dead. Its etymology, its background is from the 19th century French word revenir, which means to return. What an especially relevant word for the Armenian people. To return. We are, after all, a people who have seen the face of annihilation. We have been to the edge of the Dudan Gorge. We have felt the tension of the rope that hung our people. We have endured dehydration at the banks of the Euphrates. We have felt the heat of the fire that burned our churches. We have endured deportations that an American consul once compared to Dante's Inferno. We have seen our intellectual giants, men like Gomidas, broken apart mentally. We have seen our heroes, men like Sohomon Chelian, who wielded the sword of David of Sassoon for justice. We have seen him lose 85 members of his family. 3 sisters, 2 brothers, a mother. We have seen this, and we have seen more. But we have one choice, and that is to rise. To rise to this particular occasion. And as I close, I want to remind you of a song just about every little Armenian child learns in their adolescence. And that song has a stand that says, Zanker hohanchek, surpazan kancherin ganchek, ais artar badix, seruner says janachek, sardara badix. Ring the bells, call forth the brave, to this just cause. Generations, know thyself, from Sardarabad. This much I know, that we have in our hands the ability to respond to this occasion, to the attacks in Artsakh, to the shameful, shameful denial of the Armenian genocide by the Obama administration. But securing recognition of the Armenian genocide, securing justice for the people of Artsakh will not be easy. We will need to fight for it. And Supervisor Solis brought up the name of a remarkable American, Martin Luther King. And he once said, this is one of his lesser known quotes, he once said, change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle. And so we must straighten our backs and work for our freedom. Yevas Paredo Vidiyasem, probably the most important part of Martin Luther King's quote. A man cannot ride your back unless your back is bent. So Hajovurt, let us stop letting people ride on our backs. Let us stand straight for the Armenian nation. Let us stand straight for the Armenian cause. And if we do, if you do, with love, with unity, with conviction, with passion, with persistence, with determination, With faith, we will get what we deserve as a nation. And that, my friends, is one word, and that is justice. God bless you all.
Thank you, Rafi, for that passionate and uplifting speech. Thank you. Our next speaker is the Honorable Eric Garcetti, who is the 42nd Mayor of Los Angeles. He is a fourth-generation Angelino. From 2001 until taking office as mayor, he served as a council member representing the 13th District, which includes Little Armenia. Mayor Garcetti has always shared a close relationship with the Armenian community, including a trip to Armenia in 2005, establishing the sister city relationship between Los Angeles and Yerevan. A strong advocate and proponent of the recognition of the Armenian genocide, he has stood shoulder to shoulder with the Armenian community on the recognition of the Armenian genocide. Last year, he joined over 3,000 people at the multi-denominational prayer service for the 100th commemoration of the genocide at Our Lady of Angels in downtown, and delivered his message that April 24th should not have to carry the double burden of demanding justice, but that it should be a holy day solely to remember those that are gone. I welcome Mayor Garcetti to extend his remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Baran. First of all, let me thank Montebello for hosting us. It's always a joy to be in your city. And to our Consul General, to our incredible religious leaders, my dear friends, to our community leaders and my fellow elected officials, just to those in the city of Los Angeles, especially Paul Krikorian, of whom we have so much pride. Ambassador Evans, it's a joy to see you again. And to everybody who has gathered here today. Pari Gezor, good afternoon. It is also amazing to be with our county and federal officials. Here in Los Angeles, we are an Armenian city. We can say that about so many nations, but we are a great Armenian city. I know people go back and forth with Moscow, but either the largest or second largest outside of Armenia itself. A place that is at once a home and a symbol for the Armenian people. Last year, as Doctor mentioned, one of the greatest responsibilities and honors was to be asked to come and to speak at the cathedral downtown on the centennial of something we never should have had to come together to honor. Everyone was there. It was one of the most beautiful tapestries I have seen since I have been mayor. Not just the Armenian faith community, but brothers and sisters from other Christian denominations and non-Christian denominations came together to say, there is no division among us. When it comes to the truth, you cannot cut it up in pieces. It is what it is, and we know what the truth is. We came together to reflect on a moment in human history that reminds us at once of the frailty and the strength of who we are. That in a moment all can be lost, or in a moment we can also persevere and survive. When I think about why scholars speak of the arc of history, today, in solidarity with the people of Armenia and the diaspora, we bend that arc towards truth, towards certainty, towards the reaffirmation each year until a year we don't have to fight that fight, but we can remember the souls who swirl around us today like the wind that inhabits this peak. This place that here in Montebello didn't come easy. We forget the struggles when those threatened to blow this place up simply because we would remember those who had perished. The horrors of 1915 have not just left an indelible mark on a people, but on humanity itself. And we know that denial opens those wounds not just for the Armenian people, but for all of us who are caring, believing, thinking human beings. It's the reason why Armenians have a special understanding of other genocides, from the Jewish genocide to what happened in Cambodia, to Darfur today, to seeing what's happened again in the Syrian desert, where cultures are being obliterated and churches destroyed. Today I want to remember a woman who shared her story with us last year, one of the last living eyewitnesses to the genocide. Mrs. Yevnig Salibian came to City Hall. Paul and others helped her come there to tell her story of survival, about the night that her family finally fled the village of Aintab in Turkey, at just 7 years old, robbed of a childhood, the potential erased for a moment, but she vividly remembered that night. She told us about becoming trapped in the reins of a horse during her family's escape, which left a scar on her leg, which she carried with her still that day, a permanent reminder of what she and her people had endured. Mrs. Salibian eventually became an Angelino, something we can smile about and have celebrated, joining a city that is home to so many who flee genocide, oppression, war. It's the reason I am here before you today. On one side, my mother's side, fleeing in the Russian Empire, forced conscription and mass massacres. On my other side, my grandfather who fled a war when his father was killed. We know the impact of violence. And those that would deny that violence even happened, they're sick. There's something wrong. They've lost their humanity. Mrs. Salibian reminded us that this isn't about numbers, this is about people. And she passed away just a few months after she shared her story at the age of 101. She may be one of the very last of her generation. And we who are here today will be the last generations who knew those who were there. We lose those who were the direct eyewitnesses, but we are the ones who have had relationships with those who were the direct eyewitnesses. And one day after all of us leave this earth, it will be important for us to make sure that that light not extinguish, that those stories not be forgotten, that the fragile threads that fray with each generation's passing do not let the fabric itself dissolve. Denials and deniers, whether it's on billboards in Boston and the Wall Street Journal or on construction sites here in Los Angeles, we say that you do not speak the truth. We rise up every lie to speak again what we know to be real because we've seen and known and loved those people who survived and their memories of those who did not. And the struggle is not over. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Wilshire Boulevard, we hope you will join us. Last year, what may have been the largest march in Los Angeles history, of not just Armenians, but friends of Armenians, and Jews and Muslims, and people of all faiths and all backgrounds and languages who spoke up and spoke out for 100 years of having to say the truth. The struggle is not over. Prejudice and hatred still remain, and so we say, Baikar, Baikar, Minche Verch. Baikar, Baikar, Minche Verch. And the struggle manifests not just in the horrors of massacres, but in the small, subtle ways that allow those thoughts to come back. Last week in Tahunga, in the city of Los Angeles, the Chatalian family who are with us here today received a threatening letter after they placed the Armenian flag in front of their home to show solidarity with the Armenians of Artsakh, where we have seen the reports of ethnic-based, not just killings, but mutilations, human rights violations, and horrors. In Los Angeles, we will not tolerate those crimes. That hate crime in Tahunga, we learned, is one of now 3. And with our colleagues in Glendale and Burbank, we will bring to justice those who would not only speak lies, but begin to threaten those who speak out proudly of their nation and of their heritage. Here in Los Angeles, we don't push people out, we bring them in. Nobody is disposable, each one of us is indispensable. When I represented Little Armenia on our city council, when we traveled to Yerevan, when I got to see and feel the story of Sadarabar and went to Dzirzir Narperet, we were able to see and feel from Khorvirap to the modern day what this nation has stood for, the faith of a people that cannot be extinguished. And let me close. I'm so proud whenever I hear Adam Schiff speak each year. He is really, together with Judy Chu, but he has had a special place, I know, in the heart of Armenians and Armenian Americans because he fights the fight at the national level. that he and I were talking about last night. We're both Jewish Americans, and last night was the first night of Passover. A story in the Bible that we all share in common, that we are capable of surviving unimaginable oppression, an unspeakable horror, that each one of us, even if we are not enslaved today, must remember what it is to be enslaved, to make sure first we never oppress anyone else, but second to know that the human spirit can never be extinguished, that we can part a Red Sea, that we can find a promised land, that we might find that on the hills here next to Mount Hollywood, or it may be in the fertile lands next to Mount Ararat. But we will rise, we will celebrate, we will remember those who came before us, and we'll never let the lies drown out the truth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Garcetti. I'd like to recognize the presence among us of another person, Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Zavin Sinanian. Among us is a special person, and that person is one of the great heroes of Artsakh Liberation War of 1994, General Narod der Grigorian. General, you are worthy of our love and respect. Please stand up for a round of applause. General Narod Grigorian.
Я вас приветствую, мои родные, уважаемые, близкие, и благодарю вас, что вы уважаете, знаете честь и достоинство армянского народа, который сейчас независим, и с вашей помощью, с нашей помощью, со всеми, мы должны укреплять армию нашу, народ наш и великий наш Арцах, который освобожден, и сейчас независимое государство, и живет вместе с нашим народом. Дай Бог вам здоровья, успеха и благополучия. Что говорите здесь?
Let us now enjoy the choral performance of the joint choir of Armenian Society of Los Angeles and Armenian Youth Association of California under the directorship of Maestro Mikhail Avedisyan. Հրո Միքայելյան եւ միացյալ երթախում դուք լսեցիք բադարիք մեր քեղեցիկ մշակույթեն, որ մեր հոգիները լեցուց հայրենասիական զգացումներով։ Շնորհակալություն։ It is a tremendous honor for me to invite our next speaker. Over the course of his 35-year career as a Foreign Service officer, His Excellency Ambassador John Marshall Evans served with distinction in diplomatic posts ranging from Tehran to Prague and Moscow to Brussels, reaching at NATO headquarters, reaching the rank of Minister Counselor. The Honorable John Evans served as United States Ambassador to the Republic of Armenia from 2004 to 2006. During his tenure as United States Ambassador to Armenia, Ambassador Evans dared to use the word genocide when describing the Ottoman Turkish Empire's premeditated annihilation and dispossession of the Armenian nation from its 3 millennia-old homeland. For taking such a morally upright stance, Ambassador Evans was forced to resign from his position and accept early retirement by the George W. Bush administration. Ambassador Evans' decision to apply the term genocide to the horrors that befell the Armenian nation is predicated on his extensive research on the Armenian genocide, both before and during his ambassadorial appointment. A native of Williamsburg, Virginia, Ambassador Evans graduated with distinction from Yale and Columbia universities. Mr. Evans makes his home in Washington, D.C. with his wife, the former Donna Chamberlain. Ambassador Evans' book on his experiences as U.S. Ambassador to Armenia, entitled Truth Held Hostage, America and the Armenian Genocide, What Then, What Now, was recently published by the Gomidas Institute. Without further ado, I warmly welcome Ambassador John Marshall Evans to the podium.
Your Eminences, Mr. Consul General, members of Congress, Mayor Garcetti, members of the various governments in Los Angeles County, greetings. It's a great honor to be here today. Thank you for the invitation. Here we are, another April, another year. There have been some good things in the past year. There have been some very bad things in the past year. This is a time, always in April, to sum up where we are. Is the proverbial glass half empty, or is it half full? Now, each of us has our lists, I think, this year of some good things that have happened. In particular, it occurs to me the enormous show of cooperation and unity that took place last year. I was greatly honored to see the remarkable ecumenical service that took place in the Washington National Cathedral. It was just an amazing thing, the likes of which I doubt we'll ever see again. So there have been some very good things this year. There also, as we know, anyone who follows the news knows there have been some terrible things. In particular, of course, the continuing strife in Syria, which has forced more Christians and other we won't point any fingers, but you know what I mean, to leave their homelands. There have been churches burned, there have been priests killed, there has been mass migration of people who have become refugees. So we all have our lists. I think this proverb of the glass half empty or half full is an important one. In 1915, at the time of the genocide, the glass was shattered and thrown to the ground. But you rebuilt that glass carefully, painstakingly, and have been filling it gradually in those countries where you have come, and so many of you happily have come here. This April, in the early hours of April 2nd, that glass was struck. But, Bari Bakhtabar, it was a strong glass. It is a crystal glass, fine and yet strong. And what all of us heard coming from Artsakh was that special frequency that you hear when crystal is struck. All Americans, all Armenians and friends of Armenians heard that particular frequency. Now, what does it mean when a crystal glass is struck? It means pay attention carefully. And I think the moment we face today is one of those moments we have to pay very careful attention. I'm not going to expand on that thought anymore. I think you all have your own thoughts, but we need to pay close attention. It's a moment of great danger. I think it's also a moment of great opportunity. So let's pray that next year, when we come together in April, we will have a glass, a crystal glass, that is more full. Thank you very much. All the best.
Our next speaker, which I have now the distinct privilege of introducing, a longtime friend of the Armenian nation and a genuine champion of issues of priority concern to the Armenian American diaspora. Congressman Adam Schiff represents California's 28th Congressional District. Congressman Schiff is a giant in the field of human rights, a steadfast supporter of the right to self-determination for the Armenians of Artsakh, and a forceful advocate for recognition of the Armenian genocide. Over the years, he has introduced several resolutions on the Armenian genocide and has delivered numerous House floor speeches, including one delivered in Armenia and another addressed directly to the Turkish people. Please welcome Congressman Schiff to the podium to extend his remarks.
Thank you very much. Serpaisan, Reverend Clergy, Mr. Mayor, my fellow Congress members and elected officials, Ambassador, it's a great honor to be with you. And Mr. Mayor, if I knew you were going to say such nice things about me, I would have asked them to extend your time. But I feel very blessed to live in a city with such an extraordinary mayor, and the feeling is very mutual. And thank you. And Ambassador, if there is anyone that is a true heir to the legacy of Henry Morgenthau, it is you. We salute your courage. Today marks 101 years since the systematic extermination of 1.5 million Armenians by the Ottoman Empire began. For the last 20 years, I have sat with survivors of the genocide, your family, my neighbors, men and women, their numbers dwindling year after year, and heard them recall the destruction of their lives and their families and all they had known. As children, they were forced from their homes and saw their families beaten, raped, and murdered. They fled across continents and oceans to build new lives in our nation. For these survivors and for their descendants, using the word genocide is sacred because it means the world understands what happened to them and will never forget. To deny genocide, on the other hand, is profane. It is, in the words of Elie Wiesel, a double killing. This April 24th was the final opportunity for the President to speak plainly about the genocide, to meet the commitment he made not only to the Armenian people, but to the American people. That he did not is a grave disappointment. Remaining silent in an effort to curry favor with Turkey is as morally indefensible as it will be ineffectual. How many administrations must be intimidated into silence before we realize it never changes Turkish behavior for the better and only emboldens their increasingly authoritarian regime? Regardless of what a U.S. president says on April 24th, there can be little doubt that Turkey will do exactly as it has always done in its relations with the United States, and that is whatever Turkey believes to be in its self-interest. Many of our European allies and world leaders, including Pope Francis, have recognized the genocide, yet they have continued to work with Turkey because that has been in Turkey's interest. The same will be true for the United States. Recognition of the Armenian genocide could have been a proud part of the President's legacy. Instead, this decision will be just another sad milestone in the struggle to prevent genocide by exposing genocide and its perpetrators. Today, a Christian people once again faces genocide, this time at the hands of a terrorist scourge in Syria. Among these Christians are many Armenians, including some who are the very descendants of those who perished at the hands of the Ottomans. And once again, Turkey has aided and abetted their destruction by failing to close its border to the traffic in weapons, foreign fighters, oil, and money. And farther north, in the rugged lands of Artsakh, where an Armenian people struggle for the right of self-determination, for the right to live their lives in peace and raise their children, another aggressor, this one too aided by Turkey, provokes war along the line of contact. Azerbaijan, buffeted by domestic discontent with the Aliyev regime, awash in weapons purchased with oil, instigates the worst violence in years with tanks, heavy artillery, and aircraft, and desecrates the bodies of those it has killed. Here too, the administration is intimidated into silence or worse, a false equivalence that calls upon both sides to refrain from violence. Until Azerbaijan is called out for its appalling breach of the peace, until there are consequences for its vile propaganda, its celebration of a cold-blooded killer named Safarov, its violation of the Geneva Convention, as well as the laws of human rights, it will continue its brutality, and the risk is great that the Caucasus will erupt into flames. Not a dime more of U.S. military assistance should go to Azerbaijan. Not one dime. Ceasefire monitoring equipment should be installed along the line of contact whether the Azeris like it or not. And if the Azeris continue to ignore the OSCE and the Minsk Group process and take matters into their own hands, we should let them know that we are prepared to act too by acknowledging the independence and sovereignty of Artsakh. And we should tell the Turks that they must recognize the genocide just as we must, for history will not be denied. And once and for all, they must shut down the Syrian border to terrorist traffic. One generation of Armenian blood is enough. Ladies and gentlemen, today marks the 101st anniversary of the Armenian genocide. Let it also mark the day that the United States once again found its voice, because there can be no true alliance based on a coerced silence. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you very much, and it gives me great pleasure to present you with this flag flown over the United States Capitol last year on April 24th in honor of the 100th anniversary of the genocide. Thank you, and I neglected to recognize our sheriff. It's wonderful to see you, Mr. Sheriff. Thank you for the work you do. Thank you, and God bless.
Before I invite our next speaker, I'd like to add to the list of acknowledgement. Among us is also Minister Plenipotentiary of the Republic of Armenia in Los Angeles, the Honorable Valerie Mgurtumian. Welcome. And also the attendance of City of Glendale City Manager Scott Ochoa. Born and raised in the San Fernando Valley, our next speaker, Paul Krikorian, has spent over a decade in public service. Since 2010, he has served on the Los Angeles City Council, where his leadership as chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee helped guide the city through the Great Recession and towards greater economic promise. Mr. Krikorian earned a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Political Science from University of Southern California, a Trojan, and a law degree from UC Berkeley. He is the first Armenian American elected to the public office in the city of Los Angeles. He lives in the San Fernando Valley with his wife, Tamar, and their 3 children. A fortnight ago, on the steps of Los Angeles City Hall, Council Member Krikorian organized a candlelight vigil in memory of Armenian soldiers and civilians who were killed, some in a most horrific manner, during an unprovoked act of Azerbaijani aggression upon the peace-loving citizens of Artsakh. City Hall was lit up during that evening 2 weeks ago with a superimposition of the Armenian tricolor, the Yera Queen. I now have the honor of inviting Council Member Krikorian to the podium, who will no doubt light a fire in our hearts and souls to strongly advocate for the right to self-determination and a peaceful and dignified life for our brothers and sisters in Artsakh.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Your Eminences, Reverend Clergy, my colleagues in public service, brothers and sisters, we're gathered here again, as we have gathered every year, next to this monument that has stood for a half-century. We're gathered again in unity and in strength, but we're also gathered at an especially important time for our nation. And it's such an honor to be able to be here today with great friends and champions like our extraordinary Mayor, Eric Garcetti, like our greatest congressional hero, Adam Schiff, like a hero to all nations who care about truth, Ambassador John Evans. And it's especially important that we're gathered together today because these are, in many ways, dark times when it comes to genocide recognition and those who would deny it. We've seen in the last week or so a campaign of Turkish denial that has reached absurd and disgusting heights. Just in the last week, we've seen skywriters over the city of New York spreading Turkish propaganda messages. We've seen full-page ads written in the Wall Street Journal denying the genocide. I'm very proud to have introduced a motion calling upon the city of Los Angeles to cancel all of its subscriptions to the Wall Street Journal just yesterday, by the way. We've seen billboards placed by the same denialists. We've even seen American youth dance teams being paid for by Turkish sources to wear Turkish flag t-shirts and do dance routines in New York and elsewhere. It's ridiculous, and we all know it's ridiculous, but it's also no coincidence. Because friends, this is not just about genocide denial anymore. I believe that the campaign that we're seeing now is not so much about 1915. It's about distracting the world's attention from the crimes of today. The threats to Armenians and others in Syria. The threats that we see of atrocities committed by ISIS. The threats we see to our cultural heritage and our history with the desecration and destruction of cemeteries at Julfa, at churches, at Deir ez-Zor, and throughout the Middle East. And most importantly of all, I believe it's intended to distract our attention from the existential threat faced right now by the people of Artsakh. So, I say to my government, I'm sorry that once again you're failing us in recognizing the Armenian genocide. I think that that is a shame as an American because it denies America's history as a beacon of hope, and it denies our American values. But I say to them, if you don't have the strength or the courage to speak truth about what happened in 1915, at least have the courage to speak truth about what is happening right now, in 2016, as we are gathered here today. If you are too weak, if you, the most powerful government in the history of the world, if you are too weak or too intimidated to risk offending a Turkish president who disrespects America, who supports and enables ISIS murderers, then at least follow in the proud tradition of American leaders who came to the aid of Armenians in 1915 who were facing destruction, and come to our aid, come to help the Armenians who are today facing destruction by the same forces of evil. Artsakh must be America's cause. When we see what the Artsakhis have stood up for, when we see the courage that they've demonstrated, we have to see them as the torchbearers who are continuing to carry the torch that was lit in our own country in the 18th century. When we think about the Boston Tea Party, we as Americans take great pride in the idea that a small band of heroes stood up against the mightiest empire on earth, and they had the courage to speak out about oppression that they were facing then. But when we think about the Boston Tea Party, we should equally think and take pride in those Armenians who stood up in Stepanakert and in Yerevan and faced down the tanks of the Soviet Union with fists in the air saying, Karabakh, Karabakh, Karabakh. When we as Americans take pride in the strength and the persistence of the American forces under George Washington, who in the winter of 1777 encamped in Valley Forge with no hope of victory, no hope of even surviving that winter, but they continued to stay strong for their cause. When we think of those heroes as Americans, we should also take great pride in the heroes of Shushi, who climbed hand over hand up the cliffs from that gorge. When we hear this general here before us today, we should think of those heroes who died on that cliff in order to liberate Shushi and turn the course of that war and bring freedom and liberty to Artsakh. And when we take pride in our own Declaration of Independence, a document that people throughout the world take inspiration from, what was that if it wasn't the inspiration for those people in Artsakh who again had the courage to declare their independence from the Soviet Union, their independence from Azerbaijan, and continue to declare, just as our forefathers declared with their life, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, a commitment to that idea, so have the people of Artsakh, and so must we as Americans stand with them in that continuing quest. And so, to my government, to the elected officials of my government, I ask you to join Assemblymember Nazarian and I and sign a letter, which you will be getting from us soon. Sign a letter to our president calling for a permanent peace, respecting the boundaries of Artsakh. A permanent recognition by the United States of America of Artsakh as a free and independent and sovereign state. I ask you to join in calling for United States aid to the people of Artsakh and a permanent end to support for Azerbaijan. And one more thing, I ask President Obama and our government to investigate the atrocities and war crimes that we know have been committed yet again by the Azerbaijanis against Armenian people in that part of the world. But my friends, don't count on just the elected officials to get that done. This is not the job of the people we elect. It is the job of the people who elect them, and that's you. So you need to come together and make these demands. We stand in unity here today. We need to stand in unity again tomorrow when we stand together at the Turkish consulate, and I ask all of you to join us at the Rally for Justice at 1:00 p.m. tomorrow at the Turkish consulate. You must show up and demand justice for our cause, justice for our martyrs, but you must also demand action today. On Monday, when we're done with the end of the centennial year of the commemoration of the genocide, that's the time to begin work fighting for Artsakh. You need to do it, my friends. Almost 100 years ago, there were only a few Armenians left still fighting against Turkish atrocities during the middle of the genocide. And they were surrounded, and like those American soldiers at Valley Forge, they had no hope of success either. They had no hope of survival, as they were surrounded at Sardarabad by forces much more powerful and much better armed than they. But the Armenians heard the bells of Echmiadzin, and they rallied to that cause. Armenians everywhere, civilians, elderly people, shopkeepers, teachers, men, women, stood up and went to Sardarabad, went to the aid of the forces there, and saved the Armenian people from destruction. The moral of that story, and the moral that we have to remember now, is don't ever quit. We're all frustrated that our government is continuing to side with Turkey and not acknowledge our genocide, but you must not quit. Remember our ancestors who overcame genocide and didn't quit. Remember the Artsaksis who today face destruction. They won't quit. You must not quit either. Do as they did. Sometimes justice takes time. And Martin Luther King said that justice too long delayed is justice denied. But at the same time, let's as Americans remember the civil rights movement. And remember that African Americans were enslaved in this country, their culture destroyed, their people murdered and raped. We fought a civil war in this country to free those slaves. And at that time, a great American named Harriet Tubman helped to lead some of those slaves out of bondage, breaking the chains of bondage and to freedom. And it wasn't for more than 100 years after the end of that Civil War before African Americans were guaranteed the right to vote in this country. Sometimes justice takes time. So as we fight for justice, I hope you'll remember the words of Harriet Tubman, who told those slaves escaping from bondage to freedom, when she said, "If you hear the dogs, keep going. If you see the torches in the woods, keep going. If they're shouting after you, keep going. Don't ever stop. Keep going. If you want a taste of freedom, keep going. My friends, as long as there is one child singing Armenian songs, we will keep going. As long as we have a little corner of the world that we can call our own, we will keep going. As long as there are two stones of an Armenian church still held together, we will keep going. As long as there is one Armenian on this earth with air in their lungs, we shall keep going. Fight on.
Fight on is true. Our history has taught a lot. Mr. Krikorian, knowing the Armenian people, we will fight on. We're doing great on time, adhering to our schedule. Thanks for our speakers. We have a technical matter to take care of. There's I received information from security. There is a blue BMW X54SED197 is blocking the car. Please clear the way. Our next speaker is Mr. Vahe Bozoyan, who will deliver the United Armenian Council of Los Angeles remarks in Armenian. Vahe is a longtime educator within the public school system as a mathematician. He holds an MA degree in educational leadership. He's also active in the community within the Armenian Cultural Foundation. He has held many leadership responsibilities. It is my pleasure to invite Vahe to deliver UACLA speech. Thank you.
Հայոց ցեղասպանության 101-րդ դարելիցը ասկովին գոկեգոճենք մեր արջև ծառացած համասկային մարդահրավերներու դիմակայմամբ։ Անցյալ տարի, երբ 160,000-ն ավելի հայրենիներու անհոգտող կոչերով մեր փողոքի արդարացման ցանը բարձրացինք, փոքր Հայաստանին մինչև թրքական հիբադոսարան, հաստատեցինք, որ ցեղասպանության ճանաչումեն փոխհատուցման նոր փուլ կացանակրենք, բանջարության մեր բայկարի մեջ։ Աշխարհով մեկ հայտարարի անձնախումբերու քաղաքական կորձնեությունը պետական ու դիվանագիտական շրջանակներու հետ հետևողական հանդիպումներն ու շփումները միջազգային համբավ վայելող մտավորական թեմքերու եւ իրավաբաններու մասնակցությամբ կազմակերպված սեմինարներն ու խորհրդակցությունները վերջախոս վգան հանդիսացան այն աշխատանքներուն, որոնք իրագործվեցան հայտարարի անձնախումբեր կողմէ ի խնդիր հայ ժողովրդի արդար իրավունքներու եւ փոխհատուցման իմաստով հանրային գարդիկի կոպման ու դարացման։ Դաստամնակները ի վեր շղթման ու գերտիկներու քաղաքականություն վարող Թուրքիան միջին արևելքի եւ իր դարածքի մեջ ունեցած ալեգոց իրադարձություններու հետևանքով գանձնած է քաղաքական լուրջ եւ վտանգավոր տագնապներու առջեւ։ Այսուհանդերձ չթափվեցան Թուրքիո հակահայ նկատումները։ Սիրո դարածքին բայց մանավանդ Հալեբի հայոց եւ կեսաբիտեն Թուրքիո կողմէ հովանավորվող ուժային միջամտությունները անգամ միևս ցույց տվին Թուրքիո իշխանություններու հայատյաց քաղաքականության երեսները։ Ներքին ճակատի վրա եւս Թուրքիայի դիմակրավե ընկերակահաղական ճնշումներու լուրջ իրավիճակներ։ Այս պայքարի մեջ կարևորությամբ կարձանակրենք թուրք հասարակության հայոց ցեղասպանության ձալկերը ծանոթացնելու ուղղությամբ Թուրքիո մտավորական որոշ շրջանակներու կողմէ շարունակվող հասարակական ու քաղաքական քարոզարշավները, իսկ հայ նահատակներու եւ թուրք ցեղասպաններուն բացահայտող ցույցերուն ու բողոքի մեր միջոցառումներու Ստամբուլի Թաքսիմ հրավարագեն Անկարայի խորհրդարանի մեջ ներկայացնելու նոր արշավը, որում ականատես եղանք հինգշաբթի ապրիլ 21-ին Թուրքիո խորհրդարանի ներս։ Բանջարական նշանակալից քայլը նաև հայկական եկեղեցական գալվածներու դեր կանգնելու եւ իրավադիրոջը վերարտացնելու Հայաստանյաց ռակելական եկեղեցին կողմէ ցերնարգված թադարանային հայցերու մեկնարկը։ Այսուհանդերձ հայոց ցեղասպանության 101-ամյակի սեմին կանգնած ենք մեր բժշորոշ մարտահրավերն այսօր պետք է ուղղի Արզապույն Արցախին դեմ սանձերեզած եւ Թուրքիո բացահայտ հովանավորություն ունեցող նախարարցակ Ադրբեջանի ասպարագություններուն դեմ, որոնք վայրագության սահման անցնելով սկսան ապրիլ 1-ի լույս գիշերեն հրմպահարումներու թիրախ դարձնելով սահմանամեծ հայկական գյուղերն ու անձեն ընտանիքները ու անոնց բնակավայրերը։ Միջազգային բոլոր օրենքներն ու պատերազմական հրաթաթարի սահմանված պայմանավորվածությունները ոտնագող կնելով ազերիներու վայրագությունը չքնայեցին նույնիսկ դպրոցական երեխաները, որու հետևանքով վիրավորվեցան երեխաներ եւ զոհվեցավ 12-ամյա Վաղինակ Գրիգորյանը։ Թշնամին սակայն անգամ եւս չարաչար սխալեցավ իր հաշիվներու մեջ, թե մարդեն կանգնելով Արցախի հայրենիքը արիապար պաշտպանող հայ բանակին, հայ զինվորներու անգոծում դիմացության, որի հետևանքով թշնամին փախուստի դիմելով հետ շբրդվեցավ եւ իքին բազմաթիվ զոհերու եւ զինադեսակներու գորության, ազերին չգրծավ հասկանալ նաեւ, որ 80-ական թվականներու զենքերով գրվող հայ զինվորի ռազմահայրենասիրական հոգիի մեծությունը եւ փաստորեն խուճամի մատնվեցավ հազարավոր դարեց ու երիտասարդ հայ գամավորներու զինվորակրման եւ ճակատ մեկնելու իրավունքությամբ։ Նախարարցակ Ադրբեջանը չգրծավ եւ չգնա հասկանալ, որ Արցախի ու արցախցիին թիկունքին կանգնած է հայկական աշխարհարած սպիրտը, որը ռազմական գործողություններու առաջին սկզբանեն զորաշարժի ենթարկելով իր հասկային ու քաղաքական բոլոր հնարավորությունները անվերապահ են։ Զորակցեցավ եւ կշարունակե զորակցիլ Արցախայության արդար պայքարին։ Արցախյան ասմարտերու ընթացքին աշխարհը անգամ եւս ագադես եղավ հայության միասնականության եւ մանավանդ նախարարցակ Ազերիի ու իր հովանավորող ուրացող Թուրքիո համար բարձրորոշ դարձավ, որ չնայած ներքին տարածություններու եւ քաղաքական տարածություններու եւ հարցը կվերապերի հայրենիքի ու ժողովրդի քոյության մեկ կողմ կտրվին այդ բոլորը եւ իրս աշխարհի կներկայանանք իբրև մեկ ու միասնական ազգ։ Հայրենիքի պաշտպանության ուղղության աշտարակամարտին ունեցան զոհեր, զոհվեցան արիասիր զինվորներ։ Այսօր ցեղասպանության 100-ամյակի մեր կառավարակույն մարտահրավերները մեկը պիտի լա դեր կանգնել մեր զոհված զինվորներու, ընտանիքներուն եւ բանակի կարիքներուն։ Արտարև գոչ կուղենք ազգի բոլոր հատվածներուն, որ անսալով խրամատներուն քիշերը ցերեկին խառնած հայ զինվորի բանջին, իրենց անսագակ օգնությունն ու նվիրապետությունը ցուցաբերեն հայ բանակին հզորացման, ի խնդիր եւ իբարս ազգապույն Արցախի եւ Հայաստան աշխարհի։ Շնորհակալություն։
Շնորհակալություն Վահե։ UACLA-ի խոսքը պիտի ուղղի Սիլվա Քաչիկյան։ A graduate of University of Laverne with a Master's of Art in Communication and Public Relations, Silva Kachigyan is the president of the Armenian International Women's Association, Los Angeles affiliate. True to its mission, she is an advocate for equal rights and human rights, lending her voice to those who have not yet found theirs. Silva serves as an ambassador of faith for the Western Diocese of the Armenian Apostolic Church. Silva Hrametzik. Thank you, Hasik. April is a dark month in the modern history of the world. It leaves a black scab encrusted not only in the hearts of Armenian people, but in humankind as a whole. It was 1915 April that the Ottoman government began rounding up and murdering Armenian politicians, businessmen and intellectuals, leading to the extermination of 1.5 million. It is a dark month because since then, during a span of 101 years, whilst tens of genocides have occurred, the month of April has brought the perpetration of the Holocaust, genocides of Cambodia, Bosnia, Rwanda, Darfur, Syria, namely the cities of Kesab and Aleppo with the highest concentration of Armenians. And lastly, it is April 2016 and Karabakh is seeing some of its bloodiest days with Azerbaijan backed by Turkey's unrelenting attacks on Armenian positions, both in Armenia and Artsakh, that reveal with horrific repetition of savagery and butchery heads chopped and knifed of Armenian soldiers shown off with pride by Azeris. Now, how does this differ from the modus operandi of ISIS? We stand here today in the very month of April, once again reiterating that there is only one formula to prevent genocide, and that is to condemn with consequences the horrendous pages of the history of humankind and recognize the massacres of 1915 as the Armenian genocide. The International Association of Genocide Scholars very clearly states that to deny its factual and moral reality as genocide is to engage in propaganda and efforts to absolve the perpetrator, blame the victims, and erase the ethical meaning of this history. It is truly regrettable that President Obama has again succumbed to the denialist mentality, contributing to the complicity to erase the ethical meaning of genocide by lacking the courage to call the Metz Yerern of April 1915 what it is, Tseraspanuchun, a genocide that obliterated 1.5 million lives. We cannot be intimidated by the perpetrator, the Turkish government, Turkish army, or the Turkish institutes of state who try to prevent us from honoring the memory of those 1.5 million Christians who were treated with the savagery of slaughter. We have the courage to demand an end to the impunity enjoyed by Turkey. We have the courage to demand that Turkey face its history by recognizing the Armenian genocide, stop the fabrication of fallacies, the distortion of truth, and attempts to changing archives of historical facts recorded through eyewitness accounts. We have the courage to speak the truth. And that truth is 101 years later, the Turkish behavior and policy has not changed. The conspiracy of the Turks, this time backing the Azeris against ethnic Armenians peacefully living in Artsakh, has become clear following the intensive bombing of Karabakh. With gross violations of international human rights laws and the Geneva Convention of Treatment of Prisoners of War, this is a flagrant manifestation of inhumanity toward ethnic Armenians. And as Ambassador John Evans said, we need to pay attention. There is more depth to this inhumanity that goes beyond what the eye sees. It is time, now more than ever, for us to remain united in Armenia,
in Artsakh and in the diaspora, we must proceed full throttle for the prosecution of our sacred cause, leading our people not just to remember, but to demand as one nation that crimes against humanity cannot go unrecognized and unpunished. Restitution is absolute. For Armenians, as with any group that has suffered persecution, remembrance is a moral obligation, and at the same time, an inalienable individual and collective right. It is our moral duty and right to commemorate the eradication of the 20th century Armenian intellectuals, inhumane sufferings endured by hundreds of thousands, loss of material and spiritual heritage accumulated by people through millennia, and the sanctity of 1.5 million of our families. Oh yes, we remember and demand. We demand full compensation for the countless lives lost, for the land and properties, cultural monuments, churches, monasteries, schools, and all that belong to our cultural heritage. We do demand. The Armenian Genocide Centennial of last year became a new milestone in the international fight against crimes of genocide. Countries around the world, international organizations, states within the United States, Pope Francis, all recognized the Armenian genocide as the first of the 20th century. Today, we share our gratitude to the cities, counties, and whole communities represented here by many of you. We thank all those who stand by our side and all those who wish to be by our side. We thank the global civil society and press representatives who have been voicing the importance of the Armenian genocide recognition, because it is only recognition, the only way to peel that dark scab from the hearts of Armenians and humankind, and to prevent such wounds from ever forming again. Today, together, we remember. United, we become stronger. We are 101 times stronger, 101 times more credible, with 101 times more allies who speak the truth with integrity than a Turkish government that denies the truth. Now, tomorrow, we will rally for justice, clench our fists, drown the voices of opposition with our demand for reparation of injustices, condemn the escalation of military violence in Nagorno-Karabakh Republic of Artsakh, advocate for the rights of the people of our historical Armenian lands. And this call to action of the Armenians to remove that dark scab on the hearts of our nation, our religion, our freedom, and our right to self-determination is not an Armenian cause or call anymore. To remove that dark black scab of April from our hearts is a call to all humanity. And in this calling, you are all Armenians. Together, demand recognition, compensation, restitution, and a free and independent Artsakh. Գեցե հայ ժողովուրդը, գեցե հերոսական եւ ազատ Արցախը եւ գեցե ազատ եւ միացյալ Հայաստանը. Thank you.
Շնորհակալություն, Silva. Thank you for your attention. Last but not least, it is my pleasure to invite the Consul General, Honorable Consul General of Republic of Armenia, Consul Sergei Sarkisov.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dear compatriots, thank you for being here. Thank you for remembering. Genocide is not only to remember. Genocide is also to prevent. Nowadays, we must understand very clearly, everybody of us, that if we are not united, if we are not strong, if we are not efficient, we will witness a new genocide of Armenians, a first genocide of Armenians of the 21st century. I would kindly ask all of us now to honor those who died 3 weeks ago for our pride, for our land, to prevent the new genocide. Please, minute of silence. Thank you very much. God bless Artsakh, God bless Armenia, God bless United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, the last portion of our program, we will conclude our program by placement of wreaths that will be done by our scouts and those organizations and representatives who want to follow to the site of the monument, and together we'll sing the Mer Hayrenik, and that concludes our today's program. Thank you for coming. We'll see you next year.